Welcome to Public Safety Talk Radio, the podcast for all of our heroes in public safety, including law enforcement professionals, firefighters, EMTs, corrections officers, healthcare workers, and more. The show is proud to be a part of the growing National Police Podcast Network. This episode is sponsored by Police Mortgage. Police Mortgage is a full-service mortgage company dedicated to serving police officers and first responders. Founded in 2008, Police Mortgage offers a variety of mortgage products tailored to meet the needs of those who serve and protect. Police Mortgage, for first responders who are second to none. I am Ted Bader, your host for Public Safety Talk Radio, and I have a really fun, enthusiastic guest today. I always have great guests, but I already had fun talking to this individual before we even press record. She's a fellow author, and I always love to talk to fellow authors. It is Dr. Jamie Goetze. She holds a PhD in psychology, and she is the author of a really interesting book, which is titled Bodies, Boners, and Bad Guys, Sexual Deviance, and Homicide. This is it, if you could see it from the blur, if you're watching it on video. But I will say this, in many, many years of podcasting, this is the first time I've ever used the word boner on any show that I've ever done. Dr. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
It's so great to have you, and surprisingly or not surprisingly, being that this is first and foremost a first responder show, we've never really dug into your subject. I mean, at least not for a whole podcast. So, I'm going to go right to one of the questions that you answer in your book, which is, why does this shit matter?
That's a great question. That's why I put it in my book. So, why this shit matters is, long story short, working with law enforcement for the last 7 years, in a different role, not as an officer, of course, but as a crisis responder and as a therapist. What I've come to realize is that they don't know what the hell is going on and why these things are happening. Essentially, it became a gap for law enforcement, and I just kind of found it and ran with it. So I turned it into a class and now a book. So this shit matters because it's not directly taught in academies. And I can't even say that I know that for certain because I've never been to an academy. But from what I've gathered from all these officers is that, and I've spoke with hundreds of officers, is that it's not taught in academy. Yeah. And it shows up in calls all the time, whether it's domestic violence calls, sexual stalking, breakup retaliations, any sexual behavior, any deviancy. There's always a sexual assault called, right? And we're always being called to it. Now, what the hell is happening? How do we see things? Right. As far as sexually motivated homicide is a very rare thing. It happens, statistically speaking, probably 1% to 4% out of all the US cases, and probably in Canada. And I would probably even say the UK, but the UK is probably higher because their research is a little different. But sex crimes, sex and violence intersect more than most people realize. So it matters when we are missing key aspects. If you are called to an actual homicide, and if you see things, well, why is there an adult diaper on the floor? Or why is there this over here or this over there? You're missing gold. You're missing gold opportunities to really dig deep into a psychological aspect of this. Could be stimulus, fantasy-driven motives, and we're missing that if we're not paying attention. So that's why we're playing in gaps.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. One of the things that comes to mind is I've never been a police officer either, but I've had the pleasure of talking to hundreds, if not thousands of them around the country. And I know in general, isn't the case in every city or every state, in general, there is a shortage of police officers. And I'll take, I live in Long Beach, California, and I know the chief, not personally, but I've met him. I know that they're probably running at about 80% capacity. And they're doing their best to get, these young guys and gals who are qualified and get them trained and get them out there. But in doing so, you have maybe qualified, but a lot of green police officers out there. and they're teaching them the basics of the job. They're probably not teaching them what you know and what your knowledge is. So is it possibly, that police officers that are a little bit newer on the job are missing some of the things in these crimes that have to do with deviance and so forth that they would normally catch if they were on the job for 10, 15 years?
I would say that any officer probably of any length is going to miss it. I just
Hmm.
recently spoke with a homicide detective out of Tacoma, and he said that when he was assigned to be a detective, he wasn't taught anything about sexually motivated homicide. So, when you go to academy or when you're an officer, you're taught law, probably firearm safety,
Mhm.
whatever. Report writing. How boring. Let's get to the good shit. Things that you're going to
Hmm.
come across all the time. I don't know. I think that any officer would probably benefit from any sort of deviance, escalation patterns, or sexual rehearsed behavior, or just any knowledge. I think they all miss it until they learn it, like we all do.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, let's go back a step or two,
Sure.
because you know what you're talking about, and if you see it, nine times out of ten you'll probably catch it. So yeah, I think the question is, how did you get involved with this? To use your words from the book, how did you get involved with the nastiest stuff trauma and sexual deviance could throw at us?
And now a word from our sponsor, Police Mortgage.
As a first responder, control matters on the job and at home. When it comes to buying or refinancing a house, Police Mortgage works specifically with first responders who want clear options, real guidance, and competitive rates. No confusion, no pressure, just experts who understand your world. Learn more at policemortgage.com or call 312 499 8878. Police Mortgage, for first responders who are second to none.
And learn more about Police Mortgage from their podcast, The Mortgage Beat, another podcast in the National Police Podcast Network.
So, another long story short, when I was a little girl, um, I man, what a weird thing to say. Sorry, mom and dad. Uh, I remember sitting in my earliest memory, I was probably 4 years old, sitting in front of my television in those god awful plush chairs. But I remember watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and
Oh
it just,
God.
I know, it frightened me. Where am I going with this? It frightened me, but I just fell in love kind of with the gore. Um,
Hmm.
and then I've always been like that. I was always in trouble in school going through like remember the library cards that you'd have to pull out and like search if you wanted to
Oh,
find.
the old Dewey Decimal System.
Yes, if you wanted to
Yeah.
find stuff on serial killers. Well, that led me down a rabbit hole. In
Hmm.
seventh grade, I was looking at all white collar crime, anything I could, and I was always in trouble. Stop getting this book. Stop getting this book. You're going to be a serial killer. No, I'm not. I'm going to help somebody someday. But that's how I got started, and it just turned into more information. And then, like I said, about 7 years ago, I had a significant life change, and it put me in a position to work with law enforcement, which I fell in love with the profession, but I just wasn't. Um, Man, I wish I could have been a cop, but I'm not.
Hmm.
So what I'm good at is what I'll stay at, right? I'll
Yeah.
stay in my role, and I'm good at wanting to know why the mind works or why it behaves this way or why are we perverts? Because we are. But I
Now, are we all perverts, or is it kind of like, see, I always say we're all mentally ill. It's just a matter of degree, and some can function with it and some not so much. Does that
e-
mean that we're all perverts? It's just a matter of degree?
it's just a matter of degree. Yeah, I think we all have some sort of perversion, right? Like oh my gosh, I don't know if you can edit it out. I don't know if I'm allowed to say porn, but
Sure.
maybe I said it. I think that yes, we all have a perversion. We all have a fantasy. We're all stimulated by something. There's always a stimulus in us. Well,
Mhm.
I might be attracted to um, men who work in the mill and smell like wood and have a big gristly beard, and you might be attracted to whatever your wife looks like. Um, and
Thank
that's it.
you.
You're welcome. And that's that.
Yeah.
But there's always a stimulus, right? And for some people that stimulus is maybe the smell of embalming fluid, or
Hmm.
maybe Um, or maybe leathers and chains and X's on your nipples and BDSM. There's a whole thing, dead people, you name it, people are attracted to it regardless of it. And yeah, I think everybody has a little perversion in this. It's just how far we want to take it.
Hmm. Interesting. So when it comes to actual crime, because, sometimes people, may have this perversion or fantasy or whatever and never act it out, never actually take it to where it's, a criminal act. But
Right.
unfortunately, some do. And then, law enforcement and the courts need to get involved. So going back to one of the things that I really found interesting that you were talking about at the beginning, what are police officers missing? And what, based upon your training, what might they pick up on if they go to a domestic violence scene, or if they go to a homicide or some other crime where things that they might, not normally pick up, but based upon your training, they might see it, say, yeah, there's a little bit more here.
Go with it. Use your trust. Man, if I could say trust your gut enough. If it doesn't look right, there's probably a reason. And in my line of work, we are very big on how do you want to be sued? Because we're always being sued. How do you want to be sued? By doing too much or doing too little? So if it doesn't look right, reach out, use your resources. People are you'll never be the last person. Whoever is always welcome to call me and ask questions. I get questions, I get case files, I get random emails. People are always calling. Use your resources. If it doesn't feel right to you, that's probably because it doesn't feel right. If you walk into a room and you're like, wow, why does it smell like shit in here? Why are they dead? But why does it smell like poop also?
Yeah.
I wish I didn't say that, but I did. There's probably a reason, and they were probably into something. Maybe their safe word got.
Yeah.
Why are they hanging from the ceiling with a pair of women's panties on, and they're deceased? Like there's so many reasons, but you should always have a resource, and that's a psychological person to help you kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
Or do a little weird research.
Yeah, good point. Well, speaking of weird research, you have the book and it's under Dr. Jamie Tilley. So those of you that are looking for bodies, boners, and bad guys, sexual deviance, and homicide, look for Dr. Jamie Tilley. So it's under another name.
Yes, sir.
So definitely find that. And you have the book, and then you also have a class that you teach on that. Without giving away the whole book or the whole class, what are kind of like the top 2 or 3 things that you teach that law enforcement should really, really know about?
We always cover what's really heavy and people just kind of seem to miss is that stimulus piece, the fantasy piece, and then the spectrum of deviancy and risks. And I won't give it away, of course, because come see me in person. I'm way cooler. But that spectrum of risks is really important. But what I'm very known for, and what you will come to find out, is all of a sudden there's balloons, and you're not going to understand what you're doing, but by the end of it, you're going to be called a pervert, and you're going to wonder why you're laying on the floor going up and down on these balloons. Yeah.
So, so from a standpoint of prevention,
Sure.
Because I'm really big on prevention. I mean, obviously, if somebody walks in and there are 3 guys with women's panties on that are all dead, you kind of figure, hey, there's a problem here. Any good cop would think that. But for the proactive law enforcement, and I'd like to believe that most people in that profession are. You go to a domestic violence, you go to a call where, hey, a 10-year-old girl calls and says, my parents are fighting again. And you come to a place where, you think it's just a routine call, but you see something, you hear something, you smell something, you feel something.
Yeah.
At what point and what could be done to say, there's something not right here, and maybe there's something that we can do to prevent something bigger from happening.
Sure.
Yeah.
So is it
In that scenario, and maybe I'm just nuts, or maybe I'm onto something here, or maybe both. Yeah, just in that scenario, is there something that could be done to prevent, an actual crime from happening?
Well, everybody has a choice to either
Hmm.
act poorly or act successful, right? Um, do I think that it's possible to treat sexual deviancy? Is that what you're asking? Uh,
Yeah, let's
bef-
go there.
Before it leads to homicide, do I think
Yeah,
that there's,
can we?
yeah, before, I think there's always an opportunity for intervention, right?
Hmm.
Most people have a fantasy. Most people want to talk about weird things. As a therapist, the acuity level that I treat people, they're very, very high. So you should probably have a head in a bag before you come see me. You should probably already be a rapist.
Hmm.
All of the things. You're an offender essentially.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's always opportunity for intervention. No. But people will come and they'll sit on my couch and it's a safe spot, unfortunately, for them to talk about those feelings, but also like how to mitigate them, how to get rid of them, how to work with them if we can't get rid of them. So if I'm treating a pedophile, uh,
Hmm.
we're going to talk about how we cannot offend, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, there's always opportunity for intervention.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's so many factors also that lead into why this person acts this way or adverse childhood experiences is my typical what I see.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a psychologist, but I play one on television,
Cool.
and I don't really play one on
Oh,
television, but I'm in, but I am into the subject, and it just is always intriguing to me how the brain is wired.
me too.
And if it's wired a certain way, and we could argue, is it something that you experienced that wired your brain differently, or were you just born with a differently wired brain? But at the end of the day, if you don't want if something is not societally acceptable,
Right.
you're going to wind up in prison unless you rewire yourself, if that
Yeah, I
makes
mean
sense.
it
You
it
can you
does.
can you get rewired?
Uh I mean, I don't know, right? Everybody is different. Each individual is super different. And like I said, everybody still has that opportunity of choice to be shitty or to be
Yeah.
good. And society has a what we accept as deviant behaviors or not. And paraphilic behaviors is deemed deviant. I would agree with it. My role as a therapist is to make sure that people act accordingly, and to challenge their beliefs and to build accountability in others.
Hmm.
Um, so,
Yeah. So to go back to the police officer,
yes,
or firefighter or EMT, or any first responder that comes on a scene. And I fully realize that you can't charge somebody with a crime that may happen in the future.
right,
We don't have a legal system that allows for that. A crime
right.
has to be committed. But if there is something that a first responder sees, it's like, all right, hey, I went to Jamie's class, and something is just clicking, something just isn't right about this household or this scene. Yeah, is there anything that can be done beforehand to bring somebody aside that says, you know what, I'm kind of getting this vibe, there's help for you? Is there something that could be done before it becomes a crime?
Um, Again, individual individual crimes, individual people, before it can become a crime, there's a pattern of escalation. So if you're, and I'm gonna use porn as an example. If
Yeah.
you are a person who watches pornography, you might be into girl on girl, relatively harmless, right? That's something that doesn't seem societally, it doesn't seem bad.
Yeah,
Like
especially in this society today.
this
But
is
go ahead.
incorrect.
Yeah.
And then, well, maybe it doesn't work for you anymore. You become desensitized. And I'm not saying that everybody who watches porn is a deviant person, you little deviants. But what I am saying is that you become desensitized to it. Just like I'll go there in a second. But so now you're into girl and girl, and all of a sudden maybe you need a little bit more. So you're into the BDSM world. And that gets a little slippery in there too. But maybe you can stay there and be just fine. But maybe you need a little bit more. And then you need a little bit more because you're de-escalated, or not de-escalated, but desensitized from that.
Right.
And then that. And then all of a sudden you're in a dark world of child pornography. And now maybe you're into that. Or maybe you're into watching others be sexually assaulted. That's where it becomes really slippery. So that's why you should be careful with that desensitization stuff.
I'll give you an example. You know,
Sure.
we'll go to the fictional area, in the great NYPD Blue. I remember an episode, and actually that was a pretty damn good show because I remember they based a lot of their episodes on actual crimes. There was an episode, and this is right up your alley. There was an episode where there was this civilian that was helping these two cops find and arrest pedophiles.
Cool.
And and at the end of the episode, they approached this guy that was helping and said, well, you know what, you have this this pornography of underage children in your possession, and said technically that is against the law and we could charge you with that. And he said, well, I did it so I could, find out who was doing it. And so I could help you to, to catch these guys. And at the end of the episode, they said, yeah, but you obviously have a problem and you're trying to control it. So either we charge you with the possession or we turn you to somebody that could actually get you some help. And the guy
that'd be great.
And the guy broke down crying and said, all right, I'll take the help. And you're right. So my point to that is yes, it was a show. But maybe there's some truth to that in society. Maybe somebody's trying to fight it themselves and trying to, as you said, trying to not get to the next level, to kind of stop here.
Right. I and this is my own opinion. Any other clinician may or may not agree with me, and that's okay. I feel like just working with this population, that is the stimulus, and that's going to continue. It's just a matter of intervention.
So he's just screwed for life.
I mean, I don't want to. Yes. Yeah. I don't want to say that, but I think that I really think that we are not in control of what we are attracted to.
Sure.
Unfortunately. And that's where treatment comes in. But I mean, can you help that you're attracted to your wife?
Right? No, thankfully.
Yeah. I'm just assuming that you're married. But
yes, I am happily.
Perfect. But some people are attracted to dead people. Some people are attracted to children. Some people, and it's all deviant and it's all weird, right? So let's treat it. Let's take care of it so we can. I have a success rate, but at any given time, somebody has a choice to act a fool, and that's where law enforcement comes in.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm getting from your expertise is that stimulus, that second between stimulus and response of the accountability of saying, yes, I feel X, but I'm not going to do Y. I'm going to do Z instead, whatever that Z is. Maybe it's to go get a freaking ice cream or to go work out or something.
There's always an intervention. There's always a coping skill, but it doesn't work all of the time. That's why there's a risk ladder.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So, So for all those departments out there that are sitting here, because we reach millions of people, of course, on Public Safety Talk Radio.
Yeah.
I wish it was millions. We do reach thousands, though. For those folks out there that may be in a smaller department in a rural area but need to learn this stuff, or maybe it's my hometown of Chicago, or even the largest police force in the world, New York, and they say, hey, you know what? We need to learn more of what Dr. Jamie knows so we can see it, stop it, catch it, so on and so forth. How best can they find a Dr. Jamie out there?
I'm very easy to find. You can always find me at patc.com. I work for Public Agency Training Council. Very easy, just find me there. I also have an email. It's just my first and last name. I spell it differently. JAYMIGOETZE @yahoo.com. Please don't judge how old I am, but you can now see how old I am.
At least it's not Hotmail. That one I think is from the 60s, but for what it's worth, I have a Yahoo email address too, but go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, but
are you still on MySpace? Never mind.
No. I mean, God, I don't even know. No, I hope not.
And of course, you can easily, and I know I did, find Bodies, Boners, and Bad. I got to look at it because otherwise I won't remember the title. I'll only remember Boners. Bodies, Boners, and Bad Guys, Sexual Deviance, and Homicide. You can easily find that on Amazon like I did, and pick up a copy and, read it around Christmas, with your family, maybe, around the fire. Would that be a good thing?
It was actually passed out as my girlfriend got it for her whole family and put it in their stockings. So Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. So
enjoy your boners. Oh God.
I know it's only February, but it's never too early for stocking stuffers. So
yeah, and for shits and giggles.
Exactly.
Definitely before someone giggles and shits.
Yeah, there's always time for giggles. And never mind.
It is a fantastic book, though. It's full of really great information.
Perfect. Well, you've given us a lot of great information here on the show.
Thank you.
Doc, thank you so much for taking some time with us today.
Of course, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure was all mine. And thank you to all of you who've either watched or listened to this episode of Public Safety Talk Radio. And we'll be back with you next week with another great guest.
Public Safety Talk Radio is produced by Bader Training and Consulting. Public Safety Talk Radio is also proud to be a part of the growing National Police Podcast Network. The National Police Podcast Network is a dedicated media network powered by the National Police Federal Credit Union, developed in partnership with experienced podcast professionals and public safety advocates. Learn more about the National Police Federal Credit Union at nationalpolicefcu.com.